think we're ready to roll. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I would like to welcome our newest member to the Senior Services Advisory Board, newly elected Ray Kotke. Is your mic working, Nancy?
It is. Oh, I thought you were going to ask me.
What's the last name?
Kottke.
Is that me?
Kotke.
Well,
Yep.
welcome.
Thank you. I see I'm a minority here. Only guy. Oh, Dennis is on it, isn't he? Yeah.
No, did Dennis
Not
sign?
yet. Yeah.
Dennis didn't renew.
Oh, he
didn't
didn't,
want-
okay.
Didn't want to renew. Ben, as
She is our newest trustee. Cheryl, I would like to thank you for your service for the last 2 years. It's been exceptional having you here. Your passion and concern for our seniors is ever present with us, and we greatly appreciate it. And we're proud of you for being here today. I think she's going to stick with it. That's great. Thank you so much. If you have a chance to review the agenda, Ryan did remind me today that when I was texting him about Jean and Ben, that we should elect officers. I don't know if you want to do that before we have a full complement, or if, what, we have to have at a minimum a chair and a secretary. So I would like to add that on the agenda. It would be actually new business, 6C. At the end of the meeting, I think is a good time to do that. Would there be anything else that we would like to add to the agenda? If not, I'll call for approval. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, same sign. We don't have a treasurer's report. A balance hasn't changed since the last time we discussed it. Public comment.
Yes, please. I want you guys to know that I specifically called Ryan, and I asked him to please put me back on this committee. Instead, I was changed and put on, not against our new guy here, but I was put on the road committee and the election committee, which would meet once a year if possible, maybe not. And I specifically asked to be back here as a rep for the board, because I care about you guys, and I will be here every day. And I feel disrespected to the max.
And I feel you should be disrespected to the max.
You should feel,
Should be.
not
We
be.
don't want to disrespect her.
I'm going to say feel in the notes.
Yes.
Thank you. I really
Yeah.
care passionately.
Except, Ray, did you ask to be on our committee also?
Nope, I just threw my name in there and said, whatever you decide.
Okay.
Yeah,
This was very much, I don't think, yes.
No, nothing.
yeah, nothing,
It was shut in.
yeah, nothing.
I
against Ray.
just will say, because I think it's very important that we consider and think about as changes are happening at the township level within the senior center, that James has been assigned, is that correct?
James,
As our staff person?
Yes.
I hadn't heard, but I just.
you were going.
James has been assigned as our staff person. Taylor's here today because James is at a training. I think it's encouraging that we have that we're moving forward. Now, James is hired as the recreation director, and Cheryl, I think we have to keep this in mind. James is going to be responsible for activities at the senior center. So your placement on the rec committee is really critical and important. And I greatly appreciate you representing the seniors on that committee. That's going to be critically important as we move forward. So I'm sorry that you're not with us. I know Ray will do a good job here for us. He's a great advocate within the community, and I think I know we can all trust him. So thank you for your comments, Cheryl.
I thought you said you're on the planning commission?
No, not on the planning commission,
The recreation,
committee, roads and election. So they have no meeting scheduled for roads or election.
Okay.
So that's where I am, and then the rec.
but there are a lot of really important things that should be happening at the recreation level, including non-motorized pathways.
Excuse me. Can I say something?
Of course.
Just want to say to everybody that I kind of embarrassingly have never been to the senior center.
I did invite him last week, but he was deathly ill.
I'm 70 years old, so I'm fully qualified.
Yeah, well, very
And,
few board members have ever been there.
And I'm a pretty close to lifetime resident here. We moved out here in 1966 or 67, right on Park Lake. So anyway, I've known about it all this time. And I'm looking forward to it. And I think that, not to Cheryl's discontentment, but I think it's great that we get revolved on the various committees. I just came off the Planning Commission, and I've been on the Parks and Rec Board. I've been on the Park Lake Advisory Board, which I still am presently. And it just gives you an opportunity to learn about all the facets of, of the entire township, so.
Yeah.
And hopefully help in every area.
And I think there is validity to that viewpoint. I think the problem for Cheryl, I don't want to speak for Cheryl, you can certainly correct me, but is that we have really struggled with communication. We have sent emails, we have left messages, and have had no responses from office staff. And to not be asked even, what do you think about this, it does feel disrespectful, because this is a person we were serving with. It would have been nice to even be asked, so how's that going? What do you think? Just to be asked an opinion, but I feel like our opinions in so many contexts are not sought out or are disregarded. And I think that's where the discouragement comes from. Again, you can feel both ways. You can feel that this was kind of disrespectful, definitely to you, and I believe to our board, and still be glad that you're aboard and happy to have you. You can feel both ways. They're not mutually exclusive. So, yeah, I'm sad that it wasn't worth a phone call or conversation.
I wasn't called, I was
Yeah.
not in any way communicated with.
Well, no one was. We weren't asked either, how do you feel about it? So that's the sadness of it.
And to be put where I was put for the election and roads, which is, and I wouldn't want to go have anything to do with roads. I have never been to a meeting before. I think we should go for 6 or 8 months before we get set on a board for the next 4 years.
It's a good committee. There's some really great people on that committee.
Yeah, and we should all know what we're going to be asked to do a little bit.
All right, thank you very much. Collaboration with James. I've had a couple of conversations with him. He was in the senior center on Friday. He was visiting with Linda, sat down at the table with us for a while, met some people, and then it's my understanding he came back for bingo. I don't go to bingo, but I understand he came back for bingo. So he had a really great introduction to the senior center. We served 171 meals that day,
Great.
last Friday. 75 of them were in-house. The rest, of course, had to be takeaway. I was told that there were people waiting for bingo, eating their lunches in their cars. Anyways, it is the reality. James is working with MSU Extension to see what programs they have that are effective for our population. I did suggest that once he has a list of those, perhaps he should ask the seniors at the center what they might be most interested in. And then we talked a little bit about the complications related to scheduling of those programs. So I think he's also going to be a great asset, and I think we should all be encouraged by that. He's real eager to help us and to do the right thing. Okay, so last night, about 6 weeks ago, before the Township Board settled the 2025 budget, I requested on our behalf a parking feasibility study. And so Ryan, on Monday night, sent the request for a parking feasibility study to the Planning Commission. was told the planning commission meeting was on the 24th or something, but I learned later that I was given the wrong date. So anyways, it was last night. So you have in front of you the discussion paper that Miles, our planner, used for this discussion. I don't really know that they completely understood, even though I'd spoken to Miles and John about this prior to the meeting, that we know we have enough parking. We know that we are within the requirements. We meet the criteria set forth by the ordinance for parking, existing parking right now for the building, the size and the capacity. And the question that we're asking is, if we add more space, 300 square feet for the activity room or 2,000 feet for the expansion, what would those parking requirements be and how would we meet them? So last night he talked about the current situation, which I think was very interesting. The current building is 2,600 square feet, but only 1,200 of them are usable because of the bathrooms, the pantry, the kitchen, and the offices. So he says in here that we're licensed for 79. That is because we have a fluctuating staff between 4 and 5, and those people have to be counted in the count as well. So when he's talking about the seating capacity for 79 people, that's pretty much right on the money. Within the ordinance, I think it's quite interesting because within the ordinance, this is all about land use. The Planning Commission focuses on land use. So the question that we're asking them is about the land use. And the land use is really, there's an ordinance in the township which rules parking. And so in order for them to build a building in the community, a high school or a nursing home or whatever, they have to meet the requirements of the ordinance for parking. Within these definitions, it's quite interesting because it doesn't say senior center or event center, but he chose to use the definition under commercial, C, drive-in restaurant, number 7, which means that one parking place, needs to be available for every 3 people who come into the senior center. Or 1 for every 30 square feet of usable floor area, whichever is greater. And when you work that out, it requires, depending on the definition, anywhere between 20 and, because there are different definitions that you could use here, and I don't really mean to complicate the situation, but between 20 and 36 spaces, we have 47. He went out and counted. We have 47. We have the adequate number for the space that we have that we use. If indeed it's true, and we were to go with the addition based on the formula, we would probably only have to add 2 parking places. And if we use the formula, which he's suggesting here, and we add the addition, we need about 18 additional spaces. And so at the end of the meeting, Ray actually, as our liaison, attended the meeting with me last night, which was just great. Thank you, Ray. And after you left, we had an extended discussion about the senior center and the meals, and they had a lot of questions, Taylor, about how many people we were serving, and they really wanted to see the data. And I had suggested to them that it was short notice. You know, I'd asked that of you, but anyways, they will discuss this again. because they know, as, at the end of the meeting, they realized that they weren't able to answer the question, and so they will continue with the discussion in a couple of weeks. They meet every 2 weeks
And
on a
that's-
Tuesday night at 7.
And you said that was the planning committee?
The planning commission.
Oh, okay.
2 times a month.
Twice a month. And they meet on Tuesdays, is that not right?
The second and fourth Tuesday.
Second and fourth Tuesdays. Oh, we didn't do the minutes, my gosh. No wonder they're not even on here.
Just looking at this, I would think that we would be number 8 instead of number 7.
Well, like I said, there's a
I know,
quite, an-
right. 8 says establishments for sale and consumption on the premises of beverages, food, or refreshments. But I don't know if they're talking about specific restaurants, people come and go at different times, but
number 8, the place for the consumption of food, right.
that's where I would think we would go with it.
Establishment for the sale and consumption of food on the premises. I thought that that would probably be the most likely one.
Right.
And there is also one in which it talks about the fire marshal. And I think that that's important because the fire marshal does approve our facility, and it does, which one is it? Private clubs, that's number 6. Occupancy established by the fire marshal.
I can't remember the exact
For one
verbiage,
for
but, Miles did address that, why he chose drive-in restaurants.
Well, no matter what way you put us, we are still in compliance now.
We are in
Yes.
compliance.
So,
Based on the definition and the classification, we actually have more than enough.
correct.
And so we don't have to worry about that at all. It's just, again, getting back to the question, if we do build the extension or even the addition, how many additional places would we need? Cheryl?
After you guys left, they talked about one of the reasons that we.
Could you speak up, please? I'm sorry.
One of the reasons we have an issue is a lot of these number of places are meant for cars with 3 or 4 people. And many of our seniors come one.
Correct.
And I was here Wednesday, which was not Meatloaf Day, and I had to park illegally. And it was we were full, no question,
Right,
let alone Meatloaf Day.
right.
Yeah, the
Right.
reality of the way those spaces are used doesn't match up with the,
Requirements.
well, I'm not going to even say the requirements as much as these standardized ideas of what equals what. Because that's not, yeah.
Usual, needed.
I mean, it'd be, for, another example would be if you had certain square footage in a restaurant, and comparing what a normal restaurant would need, you would be looking at, like, an age difference of, so there'd be some babies, there'd be some older. But if all of your patrons were seniors, you'd have a very different need for square footage, because you've got wheelchairs, you've got walkers, you've got canes, for example. So just that alone, depending on who's using your space and how they're using it, doesn't necessarily align with the standardized guidelines, I guess is what I'm saying.
Wednesday. Meatloaf Day? No.
Because there's a big area you can use,
Wow. Maybe it
and you can have a little golf cart.
She said it wasn't
Well, we would
Meatloaf
be
Day on
there, so
Wednesday.
I said, there's enough volunteers amongst you guys and amongst all the people that use the center to drive a bloody golf cart from further away, though it's up the hill.
Should have a
Rather
date
than
on
an
it.
expensive, massive parking lot area, we've got space.
Like I said, we did have an interesting discussion during the meeting. They talked about using, had we thought about using the blue bus and having, people park at, they said the community center and having the blue bus bring them down. So I mean,
Or library.
yeah, I suggested that we had talked about having it done at Four Corners. Anyway, so the discussion will continue, and I think, Dana, you raise an interesting issue. But Miles spent quite a bit of time looking over this, and really, I mean, he considered several things, and he and I talked a little bit about it, and this is the one he chose, and we still meet the criteria, and I think it doesn't go in our, it's,
Right.
and it's to our advantage to have this discussion and keep it going. I'm sorry, but I have to jump back. I did not put on this approving the minutes, and that's very important.
I was trying, I was waiting for the, to jump in and say, yes.
So Deb did the minutes. If we could just go back and approve the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read them?
Yes.
Are there any changes or additions to the minutes? I'll call for the acceptance of the minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, Deb. Sorry. Jean isn't here. We're going to talk about the grant subcommittee now. Jean isn't here right now. She has a team of 4. We're working on getting a 5th person who are interested in researching grant opportunities and potential grants that we could bring to the township for the expansion or the addition. I think that more realistically at this point, perhaps the addition because it's so much less money, but they're willing to look at the whole spectrum of grants that might be available that we could apply for. There was a question asked at the township board meeting, I should say, there was a statement made at the board meeting that, well, the Senior Services Advisory Board can't apply for a grant without our permission. We know that.
Right.
We're not applying for a grant.
Right.
We're doing the research.
Correct.
And there's not an opportunity in the board meeting for conversation, so I wasn't able to say that, but I certainly hope they understand that. Card playing on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we did ask James to get back to us on, how that was going to go. He was quite busy. I know that Nancy, you have the details. Could you share those with us, please?
I'm not sure what you're looking for, but yes,
How it's working? I mean, what the,
currently we have to pay $100.
Could you speak
to
into the
reserve-
mic?
I'm sorry. Currently, we have to pay $100 to reserve the facility per day. So if we want to reserve it for Tuesday, we pay $100 for that day, each day. No. We don't have to pay that every day, every single day. That will last until we say, hey, we're all done.
It's a deposit.
and we have to pay, can you continue? We have to pay for Thursday as well.
Yes, same thing applies. We have to pay for every person that attends, $1 per person goes to the township. Thursdays is our biggest day. Our biggest day so far has been 31 people that have attended. Generally, we have about 6 tables, thereabouts, so 24 people. Tuesdays are not as large, or at least they have not been, because of, what is that poker game?
Texas Hold'em.
That's it. Some people play Texas Hold'em on Tuesdays, but right now, evidently, that's been put on hold for the winter, so they're coming back for euchre on Tuesdays. So our crowd will be bigger on Tuesdays as well. It's a good time. Our people love it. As a matter of fact, I've been asked questions, why aren't we playing down to the community center this week? I mean, yeah.
Because the building's closed for repairs.
The community center is also?
No, but
Right. The senior center's closed, so
for
therefore.
repairs.
Yeah. So I've been asked, why can't we play down there? Well, I haven't asked yet. And at this point, it would be tomorrow. I
Right,
don't know if
no,
I have
it's
enough
too
time
late,
to.
right.
So, anyway, our people love to play.
I mean, even when James was at the table with us the other day, there was a woman and her son who come a couple of times a month to the senior center, and I introduced you to them, and we got to talking about euchre. I mean, the light in her eyes, she was so excited that she didn't know about euchre. She was very excited. I'm sure she'll be there on a Thursday to play. There is, some concern, or I guess I should say, I've had people at the senior center ask me why do we have to pay a $100 deposit? Ray, the building until January 1st, 2025 was open 5 days a week. And the township board closed it on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
2021.
2020, January 1st, 2025,
Couple weeks ago, up to
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago.
the Board of Trustees closed the senior center on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that's when we play euchre. So in order to play euchre, the township said, we'll pay a deposit, use the building. But some people have asked me, why do they have to pay a deposit? Why can't they just make a reservation like a nonprofit and write it down, every Tuesday and every Thursday? So I know people don't understand the rationale behind it or why it is the way it is, but I'm sure, Nancy, you've heard those concerns.
Yes, but I myself, I'm disappointed because, for one of the staff, the Bath Township staff person works down there. She's willing to be a volunteer to run that euchre. And I myself, I am willing to be a volunteer to run the euchre. So I don't understand why we have to pay for, why we would have to have something special.
May I ask who,
I'm sorry, could you,
may I ask who decided that this policy, I wasn't aware of it when I first heard that sprung on you when you came in. Who made the policy and why wasn't it spread among board members maybe?
It wasn't discussed before, because all I ever heard
Never.
was $1 person. That's all I ever heard. Yes, ma'am.
That's our policy with all rentals. So with rentals that have programs such as this, the policy is to pay the deposit and then pay $1 per participant. So that has been the policy for rentals with programming as long as I have worked here.
And that, and that's all well and good, and no, I don't mean any disrespect, I'm just saying, when we were saying we're really disappointed that Tuesday and Thursday is gonna be closed, when we were trying to, come up with a solution, the solution was, hey, you can just pay $1 each. There was no mention of the $100. So that was the compromise, was the $1 each. That's what we were told. We were not told about the 100. Whether it exists or doesn't exist, whether it's been, on the books for decades, that was not what was laid out to us as, hey, we're willing to meet you halfway, we're willing to have this compromise, that you guys can pay $1 each and you can still use the facilities. So that's again, that's the communication issue.
Sure.
You know.
This was also still the policy when I know that you had done this prior, before we were open Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Right.
So that was the policy at that time too. So if it wasn't communicated properly, I think there may have just been possibly an assumption that because it had been done before, that they had that knowledge. I understand that was an assumption, but that is what I'm assuming happened.
Yeah.
I have a question. In that the term deposit is used, does that imply that whoever pays that $100 deposit gets it back at the
Correct.
termination of the event?
Yes.
So it's basically a liability thing? Tidiness, something of that nature?
But if you have a person that currently works there and is willing to run those, I don't understand why we have to have something more.
Well, I think it's an outside event. That's my own personal observation. It's not a senior services event per se. That's sanctioned by the township. It's simply
And
But it was 2 weeks ago. That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
It was 2 weeks ago.
I didn't know that.
And that's where the compromise concept came in.
Yeah.
Was that, we were very discouraged because here we had these people who were using the facility on a regular basis. They really enjoyed it. And Ryan told us, well, here's what we can do.
and after our lunch program, it is our biggest program.
Yeah, so that was the bone we were thrown, because we're gonna be closing it on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, at that time, it should have been, and there will be this other, so it's, I came to one of the board meetings and I said, why can't James just work out of that office on Tuesdays and Thursdays? But, it wouldn't have to just be James. Why couldn't there be, there was no, I don't feel like they investigated any kind of compromise to still facilitate this for our seniors. It could have been a half day, it could have been a 4-hour day, it could have been, we're gonna have James, but we're gonna ask other staff members to work there as a courtesy to our seniors. Because as Karen said, they just sit there and they don't bother anybody, they just sit in the back and do their thing. I mean, that's what she said. So why is it a big deal? It's just someone there to open the door, close the door, and, make sure that facility is available to our seniors as it has been.
I think it goes against the grain of what we are here, what the senior center is here for.
Yes,
We're
senior
here
center
to
for.
provide services, to provide opportunities for seniors in our community to get out of the house, to be together, to grow in a sense of community, and they all are seniors. Why would we close the senior center to our seniors when this is actually the second biggest service that we provide for our
And
seniors?
we could do it honestly, for no additional cost.
None whatsoever.
Because the comment was, it's to save money for staffing. You've got the staffing. You can make it work. And we
Well,
have
and we have
volunteers and
volunteers.
et cetera, and et cetera. There was a way to make it work at no additional cost to the town. And it just wasn't looked into, and it
And
was
I will
dismissed.
I will just add one thing. I think it's shameful that the township should think that our seniors who live on a fixed income can afford to give them $100 to hold on to for Tuesdays and $100 to hold on to for Thursdays. Again, it's a bit disrespectful, in my opinion.
Also, yes, just a minute.
Judy,
One way to save some money,
there's a good.
get rid of that bingo that they're supplying, the township is buying gifts for the Friday bingos. And now if you eliminate buying those gifts and go back to allowing the people to play for money, pay to play bingo, then they would save what they currently spend, and I'm not sure how much it is, but I'm sure it's plenty. That would probably pay for 4 hours of somebody's time and also give them a job.
I just feel that, the way the township dealt with this was very disrespectful.
It was very disappointing.
Cheryl?
I wasn't involved before, but we're not even open in the way we were pre-COVID, correct?
No, we are.
No, we're
We
not.
are
Well,
back to, so there was a deposit out before COVID for Tuesdays and Thursdays to open the doors.
No one was
We-
doing that prior. We were open Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
we were open, before COVID, I'm sorry, but we were open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Takeaway, yes.
Right, we were open. The point is, the building is
Just for
locked.
the takeaway lunches, I
Yeah,
believe.
well, they had programs, doesn't matter. So your answer is, yes, we are not open as much as we were before COVID.
May I ask a
Right.
question? If the deposit is refundable, then why are we having this discussion?
It's a matter of principle.
Okay, I'm trying to take in all of this,
No.
and so
It's a matter of principle.
yeah.
I still struggle with $1 per person. Sorry, I know it may only be $1 a person, but it's still, it doesn't cost anything. For them to stay open, it would just be
Kind.
incredible, kind for our
Kind, it's
seniors
just nothing but kind.
to have that access.
Nothing?
No, that's all right.
All right. Filling the vacancies for the Senior Services Advisory Board, we have 4 vacancies currently. Ben and Jean have reapplied, so we have 2 additional vacancies. They do have to be Bath residents, so if you know anyone inside the senior center who's a participant, a patron, that would be great, or even another member of the community who's 55 or older, that'd be great. We could really use it. We have 9 slots with Ben and Jean, that makes 7, so we still have 2 additional vacancies. BOT liaison, Ray.
Hi.
The Senior Services Advisory Board report to the Board of Trustees. Ryan has suggested at the last trustees meeting that he would like to have periodic reports from the board, from the boards and committees, and I think it's a great idea. We try once a year to make a report to them. The sooner we could get on the agenda, the better. So, Ray? I think the request to be on the agenda has to come from a township trustee.
On the agenda, you mean for every meeting, or?
No, there's a space on the agenda for committee reports, just once.
Okay, I had previously suggested that I thought committees, at least once a quarter, should kind of submit a refresher and tell the Board of Trustees what's going on, what's important, what needs to be done, things of that nature, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would make the motion that,
No, we're asking if you would request that we be on the agenda.
sure,
Because you're a trustee.
that's the same as making a motion, isn't it?
Sure, you can go ahead and make a motion.
That's what I would make a motion that once, however long you want it, what's the interval?
Well, once would be fine, but.
I mean, once
it-
a year, once
yeah,
a
I mean,
month, once a quarter, what?
Annually or once?
Annually is what Ryan
Oh,
was
heavens.
talking about.
Yeah, once a year is.
I mean, twice a year would be fine with me, but whatever.
Yes. I would like to make the motion that we approach the Board of Trustees to have an opportunity to speak with them on an official basis yearly.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sure.
All those, discussion, Cheryl?
I just had a thought, and I think I brought it up at the meeting, that perhaps anytime, any committee would like to have time at our board meeting, just submit it and say, I want to talk about rec or whatever, anytime.
That would,
Why not?
all you'd have to do is submit a request to the
Request it,
supervisor.
Get it on the agenda.
Yep,
We need it, because sometimes something, you have it once a year, well, that might be 12 months from now, that you need to talk to them. And I think these people that donate their time, all the time, if we need to go to the board, I think we should be able to say, I want to be on the next agenda.
Yeah, I think this is just the minimum.
Yeah.
And we do have we can make requests, right? We can always make requests, can't we?
yeah.
I think the thing I struggle with on this whole concept is that we've asked and we've asked and we've asked, like, what do you want from us? And I think it would be lovely if they would say, just give us a guideline, just some bullet points on what would you like that report to include? So that we, as we're going through the year, hey, this is something that would be nice to put on that report. This is something that, they're looking for. This is the kind of information they'd like. So that it can be more productive for all of us.
Who
That's-
keeps the statistics on the senior center, like how many meals were served? Is
Could you
that a-
speak into your mic, Ray? This is not a private conversation.
Sorry.
No,
Okay. What I wanted to know is, who keeps the statistics? There, I said it. Oh, you do.
The superintendent's office.
Okay, I mean, is there a form that you fill out when you go in? Do people check driver's licenses to make sure they're residents? What? How does that work?
So we have meal counts, so the kitchen
Oh,
keeps
okay.
track of how many meals are
Served.
purchased and served. So that is accounts that are kept, then those are handed into our office, and then we compile the data.
Oh,
So
okay,
we've been doing that for about a year now.
So you do basically do the annual reporting on statistics?
For the actual center, yes.
Yeah, okay.
The only difference in the meal price is anyone under 55 pays a higher price.
And non-residents, they don't pay more, less?
No, they don't pay
Oh,
more.
okay.
Taylor, you also keep track of activity numbers, don't you?
Yes, for programs, yes.
we used to get those every month, here at this committee, and I think it would be great if we could get them again.
Yeah, we could, once we get programming kind of kicked back off, we can definitely look into that and make sure that we have a better tracking system moving forward.
Cheryl?
Just a brief comment, it's so easy to walk in there, go grab your food or sit at the table and not pay. There's
Yeah, the greeter,
not a greeter, there's not a stylist to go through.
the teller needs to be sitting at the front door.
I've almost forgotten.
Right.
Oh, well, we all have.
Yes.
Yeah, we all have, and if you've not ever been there before, you would walk through that door and go,
Oh, I've seen many people just walk right up to the line and stand in line and get lunch and
absolutely. So
sit down and go.
Is it a possibility that the cashier could be at the door?
Oh, yeah, she used to be at the door.
Yes. I'm not running the
No,
meeting,
you're
you are.
fine. They used to be at the door, and then our accounting firm advised us that that was not a good practice to have the
Because?
money not behind a
Oh,
counter.
I see, okay.
Because if the, Linda, who handles the money,
Mm-hmm.
if she were to walk away for a second with it just being on the table, I
Oh,
mean,
sure,
that's
yeah.
obviously a liability. Not to say that anybody would take money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I believe most people at our center are very honest, but obviously for.
There's always one.
For accounting and auditing purposes, we have to follow their best practices.
Interesting. I don't see that would be a problem to make something secure at the door
I
for the cashier.
100% agree. I gotta
I mean,
tell
that would
you,
solve like 3 problems at once, you know?
Yeah,
That's
I
just a suggestion.
I worked at credit union for 27 years, and they went to, like the glass went away, you know, which, when I started working, and we had the bullet resistant, not proof, but bullet resistant glass, and, you know, everything was a secured area, and now it's like, you know, you could literally just reach over and grab things, so it surprises me that the accounting firm is kind of going the other direction from what the actual industry is going, and it seems that there could, I mean, certainly it's, yeah, you wouldn't want someone to walk away, but that's part of the job, that you don't leave it unsecured. You know, that's just like as a teller, you know, if that's your job, you don't walk away with your drawer unlocked. So that's the job description. I gotta believe, from what I'm hearing, that the risk of something being stolen is mathematically, the probability of loss is less than just people not paying over time, and how that adds up and adds up and adds up. I mean, just the mathematician in me is thinking, and I'm not even saying, like you said, that people are doing it intentionally. We also have people with memory issues that are using this space. They, you know, it was not intentional, but it is important that the money be gotten, because we want it to be a sustainable thing for our seniors and for our community. So it'd be nice if we could revisit that and have it be there. Put a sticker on them. Get some cheap stickers, you know? There you go, you paid.
Those bands like
Yeah.
at the hospital.
Yeah, and even, yeah.
Didn't Kim tell us that they had at the schools a way of doing that? There was a check-in system, a pay system at the schools that she was at.
Many other senior centers have gone to electronic keeping of records and money and enrollments and paying, and there are a lot of ways to do it. It is very difficult when you come into the senior center to know what to do. Linda was hired as a greeter. When they moved her in the office, we lost a greeter. She doesn't greet people. If she's not busy and she's outside of the office, she does greet people. I'm not beating
Yeah,
up on Linda.
critical,
She does a great job, but she is in the wrong place in the senior center. Can we get back to the motion, which is that we should make a regular, I'll change it if you don't mind, right, to a regular report to the Board of Trustees. And I don't know exactly when you want to start that, but we can discuss that later. But all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign? Okay, so Ray, you'll work with us on that.
I will.
New business. This last week.
Excuse me, Judy, do
sorry,
we have a
Tina.
quorum?
We do,
Okay.
thank you.
Four of us here.
Last week, we had a visitor from a place called Foster Woods Active Living for All. This is an adult daycare center and home care service provider. They are in East Lansing. They are amazing. Nancy and I are going to go over there. They're open 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. They serve breakfast, lunch, and an afternoon snack. They have activities throughout the day. They have a very impactful schedule, and they provide transportation. Now, as I said earlier, we served 171 lunches on Friday. A lot of the people that we serve would come into the senior center through the takeout program for activities and things, but the center's full. They just can't get in there. So I think as an alternative, this is a really interesting and impactful program. And I would like to I would like for us to partner with them and perhaps put their information one time in the takeaway bags at the senior center. Now, I understand we can't do that. I mean, we're supposed to create collaborative programs, and this is a great collaborative program, but we're not allowed to talk to the staff at the senior center, so I don't know how we get that set up. But Taylor, I just think that if we were going to do this, we would have to talk to the kitchen staff to let them know what it was, why we were doing it, why we thought it was important, because they have to do the work. So perhaps you could tell us what you'd like us to do about that.
Yeah, I can look at this information and see what the best way to do that is, and I can communicate that to the staff. Am I able to take these?
Yeah.
Okay, I can communicate that to the staff and have that completed. But I'll look at the best way to distribute that information.
Because those are the patrons who need that information. I mean, he did a little presentation to the people who were at lunch that day. But this is just an incredible opportunity for those people who are not able to come in because we're too full. Cheryl?
Just a quick information for Ray, is we are not, as I understand, still allowed to speak to any staff members from this committee.
Yes, no one from our board is allowed to speak to anyone at the senior
That's
center.
permitted.
I would like to clarify that it's not that you are forbidden from speaking to staff. You are always welcome to chat with staff and say hello to them and talk to them. I believe the request from Superintendent Hildebrandt was not to give staff work to work through the hierarchy, which is to discuss that with myself or give suggestions to James when he is here, and then we would discuss that in the office to discuss how best to move forward with that suggestion.
So,
Well, we actually said that. We said we understand that there's, that we should never be directing work. We've said that repeatedly, and that was not the way it was communicated, that she was not to speak to them. Period. You were not to speak.
I was part of those communications, so I did read what they said. I do know that it was not, do not speak to staff at all. I do know at one point there was a comment about, just being kind to staff in general. But I know for a fact that it was never stated, do not talk to them at all. And I have heard that said by this group several times, and I just want to clarify that that was not the request.
I believe what you're saying, although somehow we received it the other way. I'm not sure how. But
Okay.
we've also been told that we cannot do any fundraisers, we cannot take any donations, we cannot make a donation. Why is that?
That is correct, because you are a group of the township, so we do have to follow the township's policies. And for a while, you all were allowed to do fundraising, and it was not done in the proper way. So we are trying to fix that and make sure that we are all doing things the proper way.
Well, can we fix it so that we can do something?
I don't understand the question, I'm sorry.
What did you ask?
she wants to fundraise.
Yeah, so fundraising has to be approved by the board. And fundraising is usually handled by township staff, not necessarily by committees.
That went on for 10 years. It's a long time to not be doing it the proper way. Do you know what I
Correct.
mean?
So there were misunderstandings with other boards, some previous employees that were here. So with the employees that we have now, we are trying to do it correctly. And with some best practices that have been given to us by accountants since that time.
I guess for me, that goes back to, okay, what are we here for? We want to help. We want to help the community. We want to help the people. We'd like to grow it, and we'd like to provide activities and whatever else that we can do, fundraisers. We want to be able to do stuff for
Yeah.
the township.
So things may not have been done copacetic in the past, but that was never the understanding of everyone involved, including leadership in the township. Because they didn't say, don't do what you're doing.
No, for
So-
10 years, we've raised money.
So the last
Yeah.
fundraiser prior to the one that was just done recently, the last fundraiser prior to that this group did was about 10 years ago. So very.
No.
No.
When, I'm sorry, then. when
Couple
was it?
years.
We had the concert at the school.
Yeah, I was saying before that, the one that was before that.
Well, the one before that was another concert at the school. It was Elvis.
And how long ago was that?
4 years ago?
No,
Well, 4 years ago from the last concert.
It was just before COVID, it was the year before COVID, so 6 years ago.
Yeah, so at that point, we had a different superintendent, we had a different board.
Right.
We had, yeah, so at that point, there were different policies that were happening and
Right.
maybe not being done. I can only speak to how long I have been here, so I can't really
Oh,
speak
I'm
to what's
not-
happening prior.
No,
So really,
that's what
the
I said.
bottom line is that we're trying to do things better, do things more correct, especially with new practices that have come from our accounting firm, because things are also always changing at the state level.
Right.
So we are trying to just tidy things up, make it better, and make it safer for the township in general.
Yeah.
And safer for you all too, because we also want to make sure that we're not giving you liability as well.
Right, well, but what I was trying to say, I received that message. I'm sorry that you thought I didn't receive it, because that's what, you just repeated the same thing again, like I didn't get it. I do, I truly do. I mean, like I said, I worked in finance for decades, and I know how, laws change, guidelines changes, and things have to be tweaked, and people will say, well, you never did it that way before. It's like, well, it's a new best practice. I'm familiar with all of the terminology. What I'm saying is, through the 10 years that money was raised, there was a perception of what that money was for by everyone involved. And when we wrote a letter saying, we are not comfortable with Superintendent Hildebrandt's belief that it could be justified to add square footage to the kitchen by adding a freezer and a refrigerator system on the outside of the building, when we said, no, this money was always intended for the square footage of our seniors, for their use, we were told that letter was confrontational. It was historical. It was accurate. It was informational. And so that's the communication issues that we have. I totally get what you're saying. You're saying, things have changed, and the perception of what we could be liable for has certainly changed in our society and through all these industries. But the intent of the use of the money cannot change. That is an integrity issue, and it's not confrontational to say so. It's factual. And so we're frustrated, but that specifically, that those 10 years where now it's looked back on it, maybe that wasn't the best idea, but at the time, it was all approved, it was all okay, and it was always with the same intent, to add to the square footage of the use of our seniors, not for staff. We did, have an architect's drawing that did give wonderful additional square footage to the staff as well as to the seniors in our community. That was not even brought up for a vote. So we love our staff, we'd love for them to have more space, but at the end of the day, it's an integrity issue. We do need to make sure that money is not spent in any other way than how it was put forth during the fundraising, regardless of whether we can fundraise ever again. Does that make sense?
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, that would be a decision by the board of how that money would be spent, so that would, that's above me. of
Right.
what
It's a
that
decision by the
expenditure would be
board,
approved.
but it's important that the board does honor the original intent of those fundraisers, because everyone that worked on them and contributed to them had an understanding of what that money was to be used for. To use it in any other way would be wrong. It'd simply be wrong. And so we have the right to say that's our concern and not be accused of being confrontational. It's simply factual. So we'd love that kind of understanding on both the ways, both directions. So I can't call on you, but
Cheryl?
I think also exactly along with this, I'm gonna write in my will, I want a third of my estate to go to our senior center. I can't do that.
Yes, you can.
How?
No,
Donations can be made at the counter to the senior center.
Wait a minute.
wait a minute. I was just told that we wanted to use the money, we raised $30,000, $40,000, and I brought up to the board meeting, we would like $1,500 from the township to do a parking study, and we will take out of our funds the rest if it runs more than that. And I was told by Ryan very clearly, I think it was maybe even after the meeting, that no, that is not our decision to use that for the senior center. So no, there is no way that I can say I'm donating it to the senior center, it goes into the
You,
big
you
pot.
can't mandate how it's used.
Right.
It goes
Correct.
to-
That's
it
the
goes
point.
to
That's the
senior
point.
center.
That's the point.
Okay,
Say senior
I
center.
misunderstood what you were saying. You were saying senior center. It would go into the senior center fund, but you can't mandate how it is used.
No, that's not, yeah.
That's what I'm trying to,
But these people all
Specify.
donated, as Deb just said, to the.
Grow.
Enlarge.
All these, they donated it to the senior center to make a bigger footprint for our seniors to use. And that's not what is happening.
Well-
I mean, yes, okay, you're saying.
This is a-
Specific.
This is a very interesting discussion, and it's important, but I think that,
Can we add an account specifically? Is there a way to add an account specifically for the use of the senior center
We were told no.
for the building?
For the use of the building.
To
I'm just
improve
trying to understand.
the building,
To improve.
So,
grow,
so
to grow the building.
there is not to grow the building. So ultimately, if another account is going to be created, that has to be approved and enacted by the board for an account to be created.
Okay, so we can request that.
You could request it, but
Yeah.
ultimately
And the
the
accounting-
board would have to approve that.
Counting folk would have to say,
Correct, yes.
this
It would
works, it's
also-
appropriate.
yeah. Oh,
It's
sorry.
appropriate, no, I'm sorry.
Yes, an appropriate fund, yes,
Yeah.
of course.
At one time, we had a separate account specifically when we were doing the expansion on the kitchen. I think it still may exist, and that's where the $32,000 is, but not being labeled correctly. But,
So that's, sorry.
Oh, no, go
That's
ahead.
that's the fund balance for the senior center, within the senior center budget. So it's not like its own specific fund, it's part of the senior center budget in the actual fund balance of that fund, if that makes sense. Sometimes that's kind of
yeah,
confusing
it's
wording,
confusing.
sorry.
I have another question. Do we get any funding from the state or the feds for our senior center? Or is it something that we specifically have to apply for a grant?
Most of that would have to be grant funded. We received some money from like 211 and stuff like that, we give money to 211, excuse me. I don't think we really received that. I remember, I don't create the budget, so I'm trying to remember based on what I see in there. I don't think that we really received money specifically for the senior center.
Can we maybe do a grant? We not only service Bath Township, we have people coming from Langsberg, Bath, DeWitt. I don't think there's many from St. John's, but we have people coming from all over that enjoy our senior center, our activities as well.
Yeah, of course.
And I think with the amount of people that we have, that we would be awarded grant money if we would apply for it.
Yeah, typically grant money is also associated with a specific project as well, which I know you all are kind of looking at grants right now as well, so that kind of goes with that.
can I make a comment about the discussion about us being told about not doing fundraisers and stuff? And this is not anything to do with you, Taylor. Is when they told us that you cannot do fundraisers anymore, it would have been nice of them to tell us your previous fundraising was not done according to what this township policy is. And then I don't think we would have taken as much offense to it as we have now. So if you're telling me we're doing it wrong, I said, oh, okay, let me fix that, and I'll continue to fundraise. And nothing to do, it's higher management that failed us on that part of the communication. And the same thing, not doing activities. Wait a minute. And that, we all took offense to that. Well, Nancy and I did anyways. And if they would have told us why we can't do that anymore, then we would have been fine with it. And we would have adjusted and we would have gone forward and kept doing what we had been doing, but in the proper way.
Diplomacy.
Correct.
And communication.
And that's what my comment is about all them telling us we can't do this and that. If you told me why, I would have been okay.
Again, that's underlying how bad the communication is. and,
Absolutely.
I think that hopefully we'll see a change in that. But Taylor's right, when Dan was here, I mean, Dan was our best friend. I mean, he sat at the meetings, we developed job descriptions together, we looked at the price of menu, we did the accounting together. You know, he went through every single, with Dennis, he went through every single accounting record for the 4 years where that money was missing, and he found that money. He was our advocate, you know, he was there every step of the way. And we don't have that kind of support from the administration currently. And so I think we notice a difference. So, Tri-County Office on Aging, I was appointed by the Clinton County Board of Commissioners to represent Clinton County on the Tri-County Office on Aging Senior Services Advisory Board. So I will be bringing a lot of information from the Tri-County Office on Aging about programs, services, and activities. And I'll share those with James, and hopefully he will share them with the center. Officers. Ryan reminded me today that we need to elect officers. Currently, we have a president and a secretary and a treasurer, because we do watch out for that money. And hopefully in the future, with permission, we'll be able to raise additional funds. So I wonder how you feel about electing officers today without Jean and Ben being here. I know they've been working with us for the last 4 years, and I know that their input is important, and I just wonder how you feel about electing officers today.
I think it should wait.
Beg your pardon?
I feel like it should wait.
I agree. We do have a quorum, though. We could technically do it.
We do have a
Yeah.
quorum. We can elect officers.
I did have one other committee that waited until February, if that helps you with your decision,
Yeah.
due to absences, so it's completely appropriate if you would like to table it.
And hopefully Monday night, Tuesday night, they'll appoint Jean and Ben, and then, you know, there'll be more of us. I just feel like, I agree with you. So I would recommend, make a motion that we postpone till February, the election of officers. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll wait till February. Okay, so, number 7 is our Board of Trustees update. Do you have anything to bring to us today, Ray?
Nothing other than the discussion that Judy and I had with the Planning Commission last night in regards to the senior center. One thing that was brought up to me I want to mention as a segue to this is the possibility of having a drive-through window for the senior center to alleviate the problems of congestion by people that are just coming in to pick up.
It is a complicated issue, and I know that the administration has looked at it, but because it has to do with changing money and collecting money and making change, it's, would require additional staff people, I think, but the administration has been looking at it.
When you say administration, what do you mean? Staff?
Superintendent's office
Oh,
has looked
okay,
at that
okay.
prior.
I want to make sure that staff and administration are the same thing. That's just the reason I asked.
Well,
We could be administration, you know, technically. this is.
Who's to hinder us?
Personal clarity is all I'm looking for.
the front office has been discussing it. All right, thank you. Public comments? Thank you for being here today, Cheryl. Member comments?
Thank you
for
for,
being here.
I would,
I don't know which end you want to start
Ray,
on.
as soon as you can come to lunch, come to lunch.
yes. I want to emphasize,
On
I,
Monday, we're having chicken noodle soup. No, we're not open on Monday. Wednesday, we're having chicken noodle soup.
so Monday, because of the
Martin Luther
holiday.
King
Yeah,
Day,
Martin
yeah.
Luther King Day. So.
The next
will it-
time we're open for lunch is Wednesday next
Wednesday,
week.
okay, so it doesn't go to Tuesday when you have a holiday on Monday?
No.
Okay, that's another good thing,
And
Dora.
we're also closed when the school is closed.
One thing I want to make a point of adding is that I don't think all meatloaf in the entire world needs to have ketchup on the top. I have absolutely scoured the internet for recipes to make meatloaf without ketchup, because I don't like ketchup.
I'm sorry, sir, I don't know that I can put the controversial comment in the notes.
My mom would say, just scrape it off.
The reason he's saying
not the
that was last Friday, we had meatloaf, and so I had invited him to come, and he said, what was for lunch? And I said, meatloaf, and he said, do they put ketchup on it? I said, yes, and he said, well, then I don't want to come, but he was sick, so he couldn't come anyway.
It's,
More like a barbecue sauce.
it's ketchup, mustard, and brown sugar with bacon.
Well, you put mustard on there, you know. do
You don't?
If you put mustard in warm water and drink it, that's a way to get somebody to vomit. And that's what I would do if I ate mustard. Sorry.
Thank you so much for being in attendance today. I'm going to close the meeting.
On that note?
On that note.
Can I say something before then? So there's not the closed on that note. And anyone that just feels that they are led personally to improve themselves as a person by becoming the new secretary, I would not stand in your way. If you felt that, you know, you could do notes in just a lovely, detailed manner, that I would be respectful and I would step aside to allow you to improve yourself. Then you could become the president. Oh, that's not, that,
Thank you, Taylor, for
Motion
being
to
here.
adjourn? Oh, you did?
I'm putting those notes in, I'm sorry.